earlier, where you said that forgiveness is an important part of healing, right?
Mhm.
And really leading to love, to real love, is
Yes.
forgiveness.
For sure.
How much does that involve forgiving yourself?
100%. In fact, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. So in our forgiveness protocol in our school, we actually start with, again, other things like getting understanding. All right, I understand why he did what he did. Realizing, okay, he does love me, depending who it is, but like, so it's my dad. Okay, he does love me. And then understanding, well, he was doing the best he could with his given resources. And we're both human beings. We both have hurt other people. So again, if we establish some other principles before we even get to forgiveness, we're in a better place. But then the next step is really, are you willing to forgive yourself for being a human being, just like your dad, who's also hurt people, just like your dad? So once you see the commonality, the understanding, then are you willing to forgive yourself for just being a human being, doing the best you can with your given resources? Almost everybody says yes to that when you ask that at the right time. And then you say, well, if you're willing to forgive yourself, are you willing to forgive your dad so you can set both of you free? And then the answer to that is usually yes. It's just, again, pacing them through logical steps, not asking for a shift to happen too quickly. But yes, always asking for self-forgiveness before forgiving someone else. But either way, yeah, that mechanism of forgiveness, like whatever that is, whatever happens in the mind when we truly forgive, like you said, does return us to love. And that appears to be the answer that we're all looking for.
Do you believe, I believe from a previous conversation that you do believe in reincarnation, or was that not correct?
Yeah, well, what I believe, I don't think matters so much because reality would be reality. And of course, in Miracles, it just says, is the question of reincarnation beneficial? And if it strengthens the eternal nature of life, right? If people realize, oh, I don't just die when the body dies, I'm a spirit, then the belief was beneficial. Practically speaking, yes, I acknowledge reincarnation. I've seen like 14 of my past lives in hypnotic past life regression. I've looked at each one about 5 times. So I know who I am on those levels quite well. But the truth is, I'm not any of those past life bodies or those past life personalities. I am who I am now. So the past really doesn't matter when you're in the present moment, liberated, free from it.
Yeah, and I guess the reason I'm asking is, the maybe the belief that the ultimate goal of all of this is to return to love.
Sure.
I don't even know why I said return, because that's just what came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to return to love and to learn to let go of these mental blocks and to these perceptions that we have, and to have more of a purely love landscape.
Yes. Yeah. Forgiveness is the return to love. And whether it's taking 20 lifetimes or like the only time that return to love can happen is now. It's not a problem that needs to be solved in the past if the problem is still happening now. So if in a past life I was really angry and hurting other people, I can't go back and change that. It doesn't even exist anymore. But if I'm making the same mistake now, believing that my attack thoughts, attacking others is going to make me feel good, make me feel what I want to feel, that error has to be corrected in the present moment. So I had a Jewish rabbi, he said to our group, oh yes, we believe in reincarnation, but only a fool waits to their next lifetime to do what they can do now. You're eventually going to return to love, and forgiveness just collapses time. Eventually you're going to make the choice for love, because you can't stay insane forever. Eventually there's a limit to how much you can suffer. Eventually you're going to forgive, let go, and return to love. But a miracle worker collapses time. Okay, you might get there in 20 lifetimes. Can we do it in 20 days? Oh, that sounds better. What if we did it in 20 minutes? That sounds better. What if we just did it right now? So again, it's just our intention. If I can collapse time by getting you to make that choice now, then that one session can be radically life transforming.
Wow. And forgiveness is probably challenging because it's attached to a lot of things, right? It's attached to our perceptions. It's attached to our ego, to what we believe is our identity, that who I believe I am. And I'm probably not that I believe I am. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's only challenging for the ego. For spirit, it is the most natural thing. In fact, in A Course in Miracles, forgiveness is your purpose. It is your function. So if you said to a tree, your function is to make leaves, you wouldn't hear the tree saying, man, that's really difficult. They would say, oh, that's my true nature, right? You don't say to a cloud, like, it's your job to rain. Oh, no, it's really hard to do. What if your natural state is a forgiving state? So what's another word for forgiveness? Letting go. Is it hard to let go? It's hard to let go of what you think is valuable, but your anger and hatred, as an example of what we really need to apply forgiveness to, is not valuable. So again, forgiveness isn't hard for people when they've been properly prepared to do it. But if we ask for it too quickly, we will get, oh, this is difficult. This is, they're resisting me. But
I will never forgive them.
right. You just ask too quickly when you get that response. Once you build value in a whole nother way of being, then forgiveness becomes really natural. I was meditating on when you've forgiven everything, there's nothing left to forgive. But if my purpose is forgiveness, well, then what's my purpose? What am I supposed to keep forgiving? But the word means, like, listen to, like, forgive. Purpose, the word for, I am forgiving. My job, my role, my mission is to give. So what is my purpose? To give. What am I meant to give? Only love. Once we catch on to that, it's actually extremely easy because it's extremely sane and extremely consistent. Like, I hear me saying the same thing over and over again. Truth is consistent. Truth is easy. The ego makes it very difficult, but the ego is a false self. And if we're willing to let it go, healing is actually very easy.
Matthew, this is like, I just find you such an interesting individual, and I feel like I could just spend days having a conversation with you. I do want to talk about a little bit about so you have an Institute of Hypnotherapy, and in fact, I think it's can you talk to us about that? I don't want to misspeak about your school.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I ran my private practice in hypnotherapy after I decided not to be a Chinese medical doctor from 1997 to 2007. So after 10 years, I was seeing like 25 clients a week and giving public lectures and, packing rooms and having a full client load and waiting list. It was just awe-inspiring. I was writing books on the topic, and I was just seeing healings that were occurring that I didn't see or hear about really hardly anywhere else at the time. I said, I think I have something super valuable to offer. I reached out to my dear mentor, Mr. Gil Boyne, and I said, I think I'd like to open a state licensed hypnotherapy school. He started helping me out personally, which was amazing because he was such a giant in the field. And in 2007, we became the Florida Institute of Hypnotherapy in Gainesville, Florida. But after a few years of running this school, I was meditating and I was asking Spirit, I said, what is hypnotherapy? Is it transpersonal? Like, is the essence of it to bring people to spirit? And the voice said, yes, and it's interpersonal. And I was like, well, it really is. It's all about relationships. It's all about the sacredness of a transformational relationship. And after meditating that for like a day, I said, oh my God, interpersonal hypnotherapy. Like, that's what it is. That's deeper than clinical, deeper than transpersonal. It's just all about the relationships within our subconscious and, of course, between each other. So we changed the name to the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy. And we've been doing that for about the school since it started, about 15 years now. But over 1,000 people go through the training. We've created hundreds and hundreds, I don't know how many, but a lot of those graduates are in careers now. They are their own boss. They're making their own money. They're getting paid what they deserve to be paid. And they're doing something so rewarding and fulfilling that I just can't stop. Thank you for asking about it, because I can't stop talking about it. It's like, this stuff is so good. Everyone needs to know about it. So I'm not here to promote this school. I'm just here to promote forgiveness and love. But how can we get people to do that as a profession? Hypnotherapy. You don't need to have prior degrees. You don't have to go through 7-8 years of university training that actually can make healing almost impossible, because you're not learning the principles of healing. You're learning about judgment, you're learning about diagnosis, and again, usually not the deepest spiritual teachings. As a religion major, I was fascinated by the saints and sages of world religion. They became my role models, right? So just take Buddha, for example. If psychotherapy doesn't make you Buddha at the end, and you already are Buddha, but if it doesn't help you to realize that you're Buddha at the end, then what was its purpose? I mean, any relationship is going to be beneficial to some degree if that's the intention that two people come together to talk and make things better. But if you say, my goal for my client is enlightenment, is true healing, is that they're a healed healer, or they've returned to right? They've returned to love. If that's the goal of the work, then we just have to say what modalities can get us there quickest. If we're not accessing the subconscious mind, if we're not using hypnosis to get past the critical part of the conscious mind, we're not accessing where the real problem is, because the problem isn't up in our head, it's buried deep in our hearts, in our subconscious emotional mind. Hypnotherapy lets us go there. And because of that, it can be, from my experience, the fastest thing we can do to help somebody to transform.
I love it. And I love hypnotherapy too. And I love everything that you're doing with it and the way that you're able to articulate it all so well, which is just a beautiful thing. And meditation as well. So you dive deep, and we spoke a little bit about earlier into meditation.
Yeah. I found it onlinemonastery.com. It's 100+ hours of free meditation training, totally free. It's very deep, but at the same time, it just starts with, here's how to sit, here's how to breathe, here's what to do with your mind. So yeah, totally free at onlinemonastery.com. And then I've written quite a few books on the topic if people want to go deeper into it.
Wow. And if they wanted to look for your books, where could they find them?
Amazon, just knowing the title. So you can put it like Matthew Brownstein, but my books are the Sutras on Healing and Enlightenment, the Sacred Geometry of Meditation, Peace Under All Circumstances, Interpersonal Hypnotherapy, and the Anahat Meditation System. Or if they want to find me, just Institute of Hypnotherapy.com, and they can just go to our bookstore. So Institute of Hypnotherapy.com.
And is that the best way to reach you, Matthew?
Yeah, you'd have to just contact the admissions department if you're really serious about getting in touch with me, and then they'll forward an email or whatnot over to me. So sure.
Okay. And you can also find you on social media, I believe.
Yeah, we're all over all of those channels.
Yeah, and we'll be posting the notes and your contact information in the show notes. And so I have a final question for you. This is the I Love Me Lab podcast. And so you're going to live one last bit of wisdom to our listeners on a way to find self-love, which leads to true love, all love, right? What would that one thing be?
Yeah, I love this question because a lot of podcasters ask it in a similar way. Like, what is the one piece of wisdom? My first philosophy professor, when I had finished the class, I saw him afterwards, like in the hall or something, and I said, thank you so much. You changed my whole life. It just opened my mind. He said, stay on the path. And I don't even know what that really meant at the time, but I realized, and Neil Donald Walsh in Conversations with God said this very beautifully when they said, so what happened to you after all these revelations with these books that came through you? He said, I learned that there is a path, and while I'm not done with it, at least I know there is one. So my experience is everybody has a mission, everybody has a purpose, everybody has a reason for why they exist. And it's a sacred mission, it's a divine mission. Finding that path and staying on it is all we have to do. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to figure out what our career should be. We don't have to figure out anything but what is your dharma? What is your mission? What is your purpose? So find out who you are, find out what your mission is, and don't ever deviate from it. When I was meditating in my early 20s, asking higher power, spirit, how do I live my life? What do I do? And one of the principles that came to me was simplicity. And it was like, live simply and well below your means. And the wisdom said, if you ever waver from that, you're going to suffer. So staying on the path, essentially, it's not like you're being punished if you get off the path. It's just you're punishing yourself by being something you're not, doing something you're not. So know who you are, know your mission, and then stay on the path is really the only thing I believe anybody really needs to do.
That is absolutely beautiful. And I think I fibbed again, because I did say that was our final question, but you prompted another one. So I have to ask another one, because I actually wrote a note here. So I noticed that several times you referred to kind of getting a download or hearing a voice or in meditation. Can you speak a little to that? I mean, how can people learn to tune into that voice or their inner knowing, or how would you call that?
Yeah, be still and know. Just sit down and be still, for God's sakes. If we stop and get still and get quiet. So I've been talking today about like peace, bliss, love, joy, wisdom, and my eyes naturally close because I just want to go into it. But when I go into it deeply and really immerse myself in it, it's not just an it's a living presence. It's like they call it God, whatever you want to call it. In Christianity, you might hear the term the Holy Spirit. If there is absolutely a voice that doesn't speak necessarily in English, it communicates to us, not necessarily through words, but it's constantly communicating, and it knows everything we need to know. It directs us in every way we need to be directed. So we need to stop, be still, and then you need to, or person would need to learn to ask and receive. So we can learn to do that with our own inner child or a heart. Like, oh, my heart feels heavy. Ask, what's your story? What are you all about? And learn to receive an answer from it. Like, why does my heart feel heavy and sad? And then your inner child can speak to you and say, well, I'm sad because dad did this. And then we can help to heal that part. The same asking and receiving can be done to higher mind, right? So if we say we have a subconscious, which is like where the inner child lives, the low, you want to call it lower self, not in a pejorative way, but just kind of like lower down in the heart. When you listen to spirit, you go higher up. And those who know the chakras, there's like your heart chakra. It's very much in the third chakra, your stomach, your heart. That's very much where your emotions are. But if you go above that, and even above your conscious mind, in the silence of your own consciousness, if you ask a question, like for instance, if I said, all right, I believe I'm unlovable, you call it whatever you want. You say, God, am I unlovable? And then get quiet. The ego always answers first. So we have to learn, when is it a ridiculous amount of mental chatter that doesn't know anything, and when is it truly the voice of spirit? Once you learn to discern, like we started this discussion with, discern truth and illusion, discern spirit and ego. Once you know what truth is, love, peace, joy, God, whatever we call that, when we ask that a question, we will get an answer. We just have to learn to stop, to ask and receive, and really to learn to listen. So prayer might seem like I'm talking to that voice, but meditation can be where I learn to listen to that voice. So when you stop to meditate, practice listening instead of talking, right? So like you're doing like wonderfully, just to listen to me now. You apply that same mental mechanism to your inner world, and you discover there is absolutely a super conscious mind. So we have our conscious mind, subconscious, but there is a super conscious. You might call it higher self or oversoul, but just develop a relationship with it. And that starts with the intention to do so.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for spending time today. And to the listeners, I hope that if you got even a fraction of what I got today, this was just such a beautiful time. And I hope that you come back again, because I have a lot more questions for you. Would you?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And
awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody, thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Thanks so much for listening to this conversation. If you enjoyed it and want more information on our guests and resources, please visit ilovemelab.com. And please, if you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share with a friend. Hey, there's more great episodes to come. So until next time.